course. Hello, hello.
Hello. Okay, yes.
Hello, hello.
Okay, great. Yes, Andy has posted the advertising dashboard study guide and the advertising dashboard template in the resources. So feel free to download those and you could do everything I just showed you on today's class.
I'm just organizing questions here.
Sure.
Mm-mm. You guys are asking some really great stuff today. And we wanted to welcome Contact 39. This is the first live class they've been able to make. So they're very excited.
Good. I'm so glad you're here. That's awesome.
Okay, so first question is from Kathy. Okay, so let's get in here. Kathy is asking, she says, I sell a consumable product and many people buy more than one unit at a time. When analyzing my STR and evaluating keywords, is there any value in looking at my total units rather than total orders, since the total units is usually higher than orders?
Well, okay, I wouldn't. I mean, you're totally correct in your thinking that attribution is important. Just like it's important, like I've told you on parent-child ASINs, like if I have something in 10 colors, I guarantee you not everyone picks the white when I advertise, and I get a lot of back end called brand halo effect there. So without question, you're going to get that effect of having those additional orders. That's how it's purchased. But in the world of advertising, we are normally, unless somebody has got venture capital, unless someone has venture capital, which means they don't have to break even on the ad spend, it's an investment literally in the brand. If it's not an investment in the brand, which is not the majority of performance-based advertising, I would say no. So normally sitting in the meeting, we would just say, no, you need to have your front end single conversion metric, even if they buy multiple units. Your target would still be to try to optimize for that single sale to that single client in terms of cost. Obviously, we're going to account all these other variables into the game, but the main goal in advertising is always just having that one sale to one customer metric, and never in terms of the strategy, but always in terms of the pricing. So we're always trying to break even on that single sale. So I would use that as a true measurement of performance, even if you know you're going to get the back end sales and the multiple units, unless you have a true number there. And even then, I think it would be risky to start using that for attribution, because you could end up losing money because you might lose sight of where you're really at for break even. So it's a variable unit. I definitely, with all my clients, I have that unit in mind. If it's a consumable, like how often it's consumed, how it's consumed, what's the lifetime value of the customer. I mean, those things are important, but I don't really take those things into consideration when I'm just simply like pausing keywords, lowering bids, determining on how my campaign is going to perform. I'm usually doing that on one sale to one customer, and where's my break even point.
Okay, what should I do if the most relevant keyword for my product is giving me loads of variation and giving me loads of variations is coming up with a very high ACoS? Should I give up on it and work on a lower volume keyword even though they're less relevant?
You got to lower the bid until you're at break even. And then that's it. Yes. So even though that keyword is relevant for you, we talked about the obstacles in advertising. And on this one, the obstacle just might be that it's a relevant enough keyword that everybody is bidding on it. So it is an auction-based system, and it is based on available inventory. So the pricing, based on the inventory demand, can go up. So with that, you could have a keyword that's just really in demand, and the cost of that keyword just doesn't work with your profit margins. And with that in mind, I would just continue to lower the CPC until you get it to break even, but definitely invest in other keywords and continue to test, and definitely take the search term variations that relevant keyword has brought for you. Make sure you get those into a scale group, and hopefully some of those will get some traction, because of course, anytime you're using keywords out of your STR mined from a relevant keyword, not just randomly from auto, every time you do that, you end up with keywords that are targeted, relevant, and not available in keyword tools. So your competitors aren't bidding on this, at least not at scale.
And then he just commented, it says, if I lower the bid, I'll probably have no traffic.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Any traffic is interesting at the right price. If it doesn't work for your margins, it doesn't work. You could also adjust pricing maybe. Okay. But either way, you have to make that one work profitably.
Okay. Next question here. I was told that Seller Central can take up to 4 days to be up to date with orders. Is it still okay to check and make decisions 3 times a week, although the info might not be real? Like maybe some orders are not showing up yet.
Well, remember when we talk about doing it, we actually just worked on this yesterday again in this kind of step-by-step thing we're creating. In terms of that, remember that when you're in Seller Central doing the daily optimization, and I think we should actually just do a simple campaign manager guides. Okay, so in the campaign manager, remember it's similar to the same window I just showed you in the ad dashboard. You want to make sure you're going about 5 days back, right? So like when we talked about the date range, first of all, you can't do anything less than 30 days worth of data, right? So if you've added new keywords, they're going to take some time, but they may show up as complete duds early on with a high CPC or a terrible ACoS. But regardless, so today, say I'm going into my campaign manager, I do this several times a week. So I'm going into Campaign Manager. I'm looking at keywords. If I'm going in, today is Thursday, October 4th. I would be going in and looking at last month. So I'd be looking at the full month of September because you're absolutely right. One, you have a 7-day attribution window in Amazon. And two, the data is not even up to speed always until 3 to 5 days after, in the Campaign Manager. So the total sales. So because that data, I always go 5 days back. So if I'm pulling out of the manager, I'm going to look at a 30-day window and I'm going to look at it for the month of September, 5 days back. If it were like, say, October 25th, I would do September 20th through October 20th, right? I'm leaving those 5 days out. So I'm never really analyzing on my previous 5 days worth of data because I know it's not accurate. I know there's an attribution window. I know I'm not seeing what I need to see. So 30 days previous. If the keyword is really borderline, like it's done great in the past or it has a lot of orders, then you can go ahead and pull another 90-day window and then you could pull a lifetime window, right? But either way that you do it, start with a 30-day sort, 5 days back.
Okay, and just a quick reminder, guys, if you guys have multiple parts to your question, please submit them all at the same time. Because when they come in at different times and somebody gets in between you, it's a little hard to understand where we're at with it. So if you're adding different details after the question, it's hard for me to place that with the original question when 5 or 6 people have gotten in between you.
And they're probably thinking the same thing because they're thinking right. when I start to answer, they're thinking, oh, but then she said this and then I thought this, and it's conversation, right? So then they're thinking, hey, now I'm talking, and they're talking to me and I'm talking to them, and then you're in the middle going, hey, people, like there's like a lot of people talking all at once. Because you guys, Melissa gets the questions from everybody all at once. So whatever you're putting in is like by hundreds, multiplied. So it's kind of funny, but yeah, I'm with you guys. I tend to be more conversational when I'm answering questions. Like I want to hear like, oh, so what kind of product was it? Or what's the CPC or those kinds of details, but it is hard for Melissa to sort those out.
And Smile, I have all the details with yours, just FYI. I did get them all. They're all in the same they're in the same part now, so I understand where we're at. I was just looking at a lot of different things there for
in fact,
a second.
I know, Melissa, I had to remember in the early days, I was so excited when I first got into the admin and I could see your guys' questions. Like I wanted to talk to every one of you. I would just be like, oh my gosh, I can answer this. Yes, I see this, And then that was throwing everyone for a loop, and our Q&A transcripts were nuts because there was me like in the middle of the Q&A just answering random questions that I read in the admin. So now I've like tamed myself to not look at the admin questions to manage it. So it's kind of funny. I get with you guys though, because if it were up to me, I would just be having a conversation with you, but that's really hard for the rest of the class to listen to.
All right. Okay. I got everything organized now. Now we're good. Okay. So, and just to follow up on the last question that we had. So even when checking 3 times a week, should they be pulling 30 days each time? Is that the date range they should be looking at if they're pulling 3 times a week?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Just go for those previous 30 days. Because what's going to happen, with that is each, what you're really doing in those like 3x a week, it is when you're search term mining, especially, you're really catching keywords as they start to gain traction. Because the thing about the long tail with keywords is they can really run up ad spend. Everybody loves to rave about the long tail, like, oh, just tons of long tail keywords. It's like you could spend on Amazon $4 a click on 100 keywords and it could break the bank, right? So you don't want that. So the long tail is really interesting, but the reason you check it so frequently is it's not like you're really doing like a granular analysis. We do that once a month. What you're really trying to see is, okay, have these new search terms started to pick up traction, and they kind of will do it randomly because whenever people search for them, and then you'll just want to be able to see if they're going to perform at your targets. So so do it, 2-3 times a week. Always do it with a 30-day sort. And what you're really trying to pick off on there are search terms that have either gained momentum and started to get clicks and aren't performing, or search terms that are starting to perform, but maybe the costs aren't right.
All right. Lure VIP said, Cherie, you're a lizard.
I know.
It's the lizard brain.
We're all lizards. We can all take the high road, but we're all lizards at the end of the day, right? We're just people.
All right. Okay. So next question here is, how deep should we go to find competitors that are similar to ours? I only have 4 that are the exact same as mine. The others are either the same function, but not the same strength, or they're sold as a bonus product. If I look at the 50 best sellers, I can find probably more similar to mine, but they don't sell high enough volume.
Okay, so that's a great question. Okay, first of all, let's cover the 2 reasons the competitors have to be similar. They have to be similar, one, because you're going to use their keyword structure as the foundation for your keyword structure, because that's only sensible. If there's one thing we know about algorithms, is they like patterns, right? They are computerized systems. They like things that are proven. They designed a user experience on Amazon for the shoppers, and they want to give them what they know works. So we know historically, and this is Google 101, Amazon 101, algorithm 101, is they like patterns. They like things that are familiar. So because of that, we're going to look at these best sellers that are similar to ours to get a starting kind of keyword base that we know matches what Amazon's already has history on, that sells well, produces well, ranks well. So Amazon says, aha, this must be one of those, right? So it gets interesting. So you do want to match your competitors exactly for that first reason, because you're trying to scrape keywords, right? Through all the stuff in competitive research that I handed out, there's a PDF study guide called Competitive Research. In that guide, you can go through it and do all the steps. There's also competitive analysis. But the research is really useful because you're going to take the keywords and you're going to use those as your foundation, because you are starting from scratch. So when you do that, the keywords have to be really relevant. So if the product isn't similar to yours, those keywords are not relevant. So you're not starting with the right foundation, because when the algorithm goes to rank you, you're not one of those. You're something different. So you really want to have that kind of, think of the algorithm speaking to you and saying, you're one of those. You're one of these top ranked, top selling products like this. So you do want, even if it's only 4 competitors, use the ones that are relevant. Second situation is, okay, so we use our competitors as a keyword density kind of keyword pool to start get an understanding of what's already ranking and selling and what keywords work. Second way we use our competitors is we come in and we say, okay, we're going to target these product pages on the path to purchase in our phase 3 optimization. So now we're going to got all of our keywords ranked. We got top of search placement. We're going to head into these competitors that have similar products to ours and start to get some visibility on their product pages. Now, the reason the product has to be similar to yours is because first and foremost, it's challenging to take a sale from a competitor's page. I mean, we talk about it casually. I do it all day long. You guys see the stats, but it's not as if it's going to be handed to you like a search sale would be handed to you. When you're actually on a competitor's page, the buyer already has a preference and it's already doing some comparison shopping. The buyer's already comparing stuff, and it gets a little trickier to convert that and close that deal, especially on a limited number of clicks. So because it's already a challenge to convert that traffic, you set yourself up for failure if the product features are not identical, because you won't convert it. You have to kind of know, okay, this person wants apples. I'm selling apples. Let me see if I can make them see that my apples are better or more interesting or more relevant. And then you take the Apple searcher off the product page to your apples and they buy. Now it's like the apples to oranges thing. If you're advertising oranges and they're shopping on apples, not only are they not looking at your stuff, but they're already on a competitor's page that has apples, and now you're going to show them oranges. It won't work. So essentially, you need to be sure that that product is identical in both instances to really get good results out of it. So if there's only 4 in the top bestseller, use those because they have sales velocity and they have conversions. Whenever something is selling a lot on Amazon, that product page converts. So it's very interesting to look at it, right? So if you have even 4 examples of product pages that both rank and sell, that's really all you need. And then from there, you want to kind of go back and then go dig deeper. If you just need a good keyword base, you want to get the 10, just go ahead and dig deeper. Don't worry about sales velocity as much as relevance, because at that point you're going to use it as your keyword bed and you just want as much good keywords as possible, but kind of move down the chain of like, okay, what's the closest to rank that's like mine? What's ranked highest that's like mine? What's in the bestseller rank highest that's like mine? And go ahead and move your way down. And if you have 4 clear winners that are like yours, that have velocity, that's really all you need to kind of start the whole thing.
All right. Fanor's got a question here. Fanor says, so the 5-day window for data applies to both the search term and the campaign manager? Must have been something you were referring to in the training today.
No. Only campaign manager.
Okay, only campaign manager. Great.
Oh, and the advertising dashboard. Anytime you're reporting or analyzing, yes, but not the search term report, because the search term report is like a 60-day view, and it's just, you're fine on the search term report just to pull it, to pull that 60-day window.
All right. Contact says, I'm confused with a phrase ad group, which is giving me some new words that I can put in scale, but many that have a very high ACOS. Should I be putting all of those into buy with a capped budget and leave the phrase ad group as a bid for rank, even though it's a high ACOS?
No. If your phrase is bringing in keywords with high ACOS, there's nothing to do with those, because you're not, the only time you're moving stuff into buy is when you have significant orders on that, right? So, if you're just bringing them into the search term report, analyzing them for the first time, if they have a high ACOS, they weren't a win. You know what I mean? You got a new search term, it wasn't a high ACOS. And if phrase match, like we talked about, phrase and broad, usually one or the other will work very well. You never know which one till you test. The goal is to test as quickly as possible. So if your phrase match isn't doing it, it's bringing in irrelevant terms or terms that have a high ACOS, things that you can't leverage in the campaigns, I would just pause the phrase, focus on broad or exact. Keywords are only valuable when they actually mine terms you can use.
Okay, next question here. It says, the leader in my category is getting loads of sales and has over 2,000 reviews while I have just over 40. I feel like it's hard to beat them. Do you have any good tips other than trying to outbid them?
One more time, Melissa.
Okay. The leader in my category is getting loads of sales and has over 2,000 reviews while I have just over 40. So they've got 40 reviews versus their competitor that has 2,000 reviews.
Okay.
I feel like it's really hard to beat them. Do you have any good tips other than trying to outbid them?
No. I mean, I really wish in that instance, because it's one of those things that you'll have to gain momentum. My most important bit of advice on that one is just to make sure that you're bidding on the keywords that aren't putting you in the browse cycle early in the game, that aren't putting you in a place where you're going after really broad general keywords, where you're getting that shopper that's early in the cycle, and focusing on those modified keywords like we discussed over the past 3 weeks. We've done 3 demos of killer products. Just stuff that's really working, stuff that's not, stuff that has huge potential. So as we go through, sorry, I'm kind of hoarse today. As we go through those, those particular keywords, you got to find the ones that really define the features and benefits of your product. So if you're in a situation where your product is identical to the one that has the reviews, that's very challenging. The goal, of course, is not to have an identical product in the first place. So if you have an identical product to one that's already got reviews, just look straight business. There's no point of differentiation, and that could be challenging if they have more reviews than you and they're identical. Now, if you have a unique feature or benefit to your product, I would be advertising on those keywords and staying clear of the general ones until you get a good momentum to really compete with them head on the general stuff.
All right. Next question here is, I eventually need to change my brand name in order for it to get a trademark. Is that going to have a big effect on the algorithm that I've built up?
No, it shouldn't. Hopefully you're targeting a ton of category keywords. And when I say category, I mean the kind of general keywords that define the product and not you. And then you should be able to use your old brand name as keyword still. Possibly, depends on how much you change it. Otherwise, you would just go ahead and stop advertising the old brand and start advertising the new brand, unless there's a way for you to transition it to where you could use both brand keywords. But it shouldn't impact your big velocity, which is your overall category keywords. Now, of course, from a business standpoint, changing the brand, I mean, that of course will have its own impact. But from an advertising standpoint, as long as your category and competitor keywords are just still well positioned, it shouldn't impact the ad campaigns at all.
Okay, next question here is some keywords I bid on show little to no impressions, even though I am bidding on the higher end of the suggested bid. I know this has to do with a relevancy issue, so how do I increase the relevancy?
Well, I mean, it should be relevant. I mean, when I say it's a relevancy issue, it means that that particular keyword isn't relevant to your product. But if you're saying the keyword's relevant to your product, then it would be in the title. It would just be your normal like kind of listing optimization to make sure that keyword is present just within the title and descriptions, kind of stuff we went through over the past few weeks. I think on that one, it's just going to really just depend on, when it comes to relevance, it shouldn't. When I say relevance, I mean literally like it's relevant in the sense that it's in the shopper's mind. Like, so when the shopper is looking for this particular keyword, your product matches perfectly. So if it's that kind of relevant, then maybe it's something to do with the listing itself.
All right. I have a few months worth of search term reports at around 100% ACOS. Sad face. Mm-hmm. But I'm having a hard time finding words that can be profitable. Is there some products that will just never succeed? Here's some metrics with it. It says right now I'm converting at around 4 to 5 clicks for some of the most relevant keywords, but they're super expensive and the CPA is at 10.3. What do you suggest I do from here?
Well, you'd have to lower the bids. And if you're converting every 4 to 5 clicks, you've got a relevant keyword. It sounds to me like you have a margin issue. You know what I mean? Like if you're going to convert every 4 clicks to a sale, 5 clicks to a sale, you're going to have to be able to pay the Amazon price on those clicks and do that at break even. So I would say you don't have enough margin. I'd say the issue is in your pricing and your margin and not in the ad campaigns.
Okay, Robert's got the next question here. It says, does this CPA, so the one that you were showing today, does this CPA include all products you advertise with different prices and costs?
Yes, all products. You're just looking at ad spend across all products just to get a total idea of spend and total. Now, of course, you can go more granular and do this at the product level as well. But for your basic advertising dashboard, you're just trying to do a simple tracking of your sponsored product spend, sponsored product sales, and just your total spend, total sales. So you can just kind of see total business health against advertising.
Okay. And
because remember, on a brand halo, because this is something that we see all the time in the back end data from Amazon, it's huge. On the brand halo effect, it impacts all brands. So like last week when I worked on Fanner's stuff, we worked on the Dr. Calais like beauty brand on Tuesday. For example, on those products, I am guaranteeing you, because I've seen this in the data and I have I manage campaigns for the best selling products in health, in home, in grocery, like seriously big brands. And I'm telling you, sometimes they're just, FBA brands. Sometimes they're brands that are big nationwide. Anytime I'm looking at the data, when I look at this, people buy all products at scale. So like essentially I may be pushing one variation of my product, but all product sales are lifted as a result. All products, not even parent-child, but all the parents, like the whole brand. When you start to advertise at scale, the whole brand lifts. So when I look at total sales against ad spend, I do consider my ad spend a brand attribute. It's a banner on the first page of Amazon.com, both small on mobile, big and small on search, on desktop. These are banners for my brand with images of my products. It's like a massive end cap when people search at the right time, right? So when I do these kind of scale campaigns, my brand total sales are always growing. And then of course I have I work really close with the guys at Amazon in Seattle. I have a trip planned this month to Amazon in New York City to do a meeting up there with the home division. And so I get a lot of data from my ad teams and from the ad teams that are kind of watching the accounts that I manage. And I'm telling you, the brand halo is massive. So when I say brand halo, it just means, okay, where from somebody viewing my ad, I get to get impression data too. From someone viewing my ad or clicking my ad, where did I get that same viewer or clicker? When did they buy an additional brand product? So It's really huge. So you definitely want to look at total sales, and you want to attribute your ad spend across total brand growth, because when you put the brand up like that, in that kind of visibility on these really killer keywords, you do end up with massive growth across all products.
Okay, and Contact wanted to clarify part of the question we just answered for them. It says, my product is the same as the competitor, but the price is a bit cheaper. Is there hope to pick up traction, or do I need to add something to my product, like a bonus product, in order for it to work? So that was the 2,000 reviews versus the 40 trying to beat a competitor question. Trying to beat them rather than just outbidding them, if you have any insight on how to do that.
Yeah, I think that's more of a product question. I think that's more of a product positioning question. And I would love to answer it, but I have found that I know nothing on this because I don't have the product. Like you guys saw in the other classes, I obviously know something if I'm looking at the product, right? I could really help in terms of market analysis, product analysis, sales analysis, because I just sell stuff all day long. It's all I do. But when I don't know what you're selling and I don't know what your competitor's selling, it's like, you know what I mean? I wish I could help, but unfortunately I don't know. And then I think sometimes I am in this class and I'm trying to answer questions. And then when I see someone sends me something and I see it, I say, oh, well, yeah, that's completely different. So I really can't answer that question because I don't know what you're selling and what your competitor's selling. And I don't have a good enough view of it.
Okay. Carolina's got a question here. Carolina's asking, from the shopper perspective and for us to test conversions, is it the same appearing in page 1 sponsored instead of organically?
One more time?
Yeah, I don't know if this one quite makes sense. I thought maybe I read it a different way. Let's see here. Oh, it's okay. Says, from the shopper's perspective and for us to test conversions, is it the same appearing on page 1 as sponsored instead of organically? So looking at this, okay, there we go.
I mean, because you get a product image and because it uses your actual title. Now, the headline banner is an obvious ad unit. It's a display unit. So a product display. Those are display units, right? So with a display unit, you've manipulated the text and the images, and people know that, right? But anytime you're looking at a sponsored ad, sure, there's a little icon that says sponsored. But in terms of the way Amazon shows it, people don't differentiate because you actually have the true product title and the true product image. It looks exactly like an organic listing. Now, if it were manipulated by the user like us and we could put, text in it like we do headline, the shopper really discerns that immediately. As soon as you edit the ad copy and the ad unit has a look of an ad, it's fantastic because ads work. I mean, they work or people wouldn't do Super Bowl ads. But at the same time, it's a different feel. But yeah, sponsored against organic, those top 3 positions, that top 3 pack, no, there's not going to be any difference except for without organic positioning, you have to pay for every sale.
All right. I sell 2 products at a very high ACoS, and I don't have enough time to work on optimizing both campaigns as I'm trying to figure all of this out. Should I just let it run out of stock so I don't lose money on it and pick up again once I'm ready?
2 products at a high ACoS?
Yeah, it says I sell 2 products at a very high ACoS, and I don't have enough time to work on optimizing both campaigns as I'm trying to figure all this out. I'm assuming they're referring to the class. Figure all this out. Should I just let it run out of stock so I don't lose money on it and then pick it up again once I'm ready?
Yeah, that sounds like a business question. Again, I don't think I can help in terms of the ad strategy there. My ad strategy would be to lower your bids and get them performing to build even the most incremental sales history. And this too is out of the mouth of babes. This is out of Amazon in Seattle. The even low bids with a keyword running help build sales history. And this was one that I had because you guys know I love scale and I love to rank on page 1. This was one I had a massive debate with the Amazon team, like a massive debate to where we were like almost in a shouting match, because you guys have seen I can get a bit feisty. And we were like almost in a shouting match. I so disagreed. And in the end, it was right. Of course, I love to have disagreements because, wow, you get to see where you're wrong, because heavens, we're wrong so much of the time, right? So it was great for me to learn that. And so if you even have lower bids on a keyword, but it's got to be a relevant keyword that you can actually sell on, right? Remember, the inherent idea of sales history is it's a sale. So you have to be getting sales at scale, or at least some sales momentum to know it's a sellable keyword, and then lowering the bid to a break-even point will still build your sales history. You won't get as much traffic, but it's far more valuable to keep that keyword active at whatever bid is possible to continue to get the history.
Okay. All right, next question here. Quick another one from Carolina. She's asking if paid traffic converts differently than organic traffic.
Every keyword converts differently. Every product converts differently. And no. I mean, I don't think. I mean, of course, it's all going to be different, right? But it'd be hard to, I don't have any data that can tell you. First of all, Amazon doesn't release, it will release like the organic kind of search volume for particular products. But you can't really get like, I mean, in terms of conversion to conversion, I don't think there's enough data for me to say that it's completely different. I think here's what I would say. I would say that the paid traffic, in my experience over 15 years, paid traffic doesn't convert differently than organic traffic, but it can click differently, if that makes sense. So the amount of people that click on the ads is highly impacted by the position of the ad and where it's at on the product page and what search keyword they've used to find the ad. So again, the click between organic and paid might vary, but I don't think the sales conversion is going to vary too dramatically.
Okay, Fanor's got a question here. It says, is whatever not seen on the sponsored product percentages total sales, the sponsored products total sales, considered organic?
Your total sales is considered total sales, both paid and organic. It's all sales for all products on Amazon.com. Okay. Now, if you wanted to get your organic sales, you can go ahead and take your total sales and you could subtract your paid sales, and that would give you organic. It's not a metric that's going to help you anywhere to determine ad spend and investments. But if you want to know, like, that's why we do the sponsored product percentage of sales. So we have a ratio there. But if you literally want to say, what are my organic sales? What are my paid sales? All you do is take your total sales number out of the business report and then subtract those advertising sales, add a few lines, and you'll have organic. But I don't think that's going to be actionable for you. So I would do it like once in a while just to see it. But I don't believe you'll, in my experience, have an action item off of that.
Okay. And what do you do when you see a large, the SP percentage of total sales, even though you have first page rankings for a lot of your terms?
Well, sometimes every product, every keyword is different. And I have products that they all vary. Yeah, they vary in their sponsored product percentages. I would definitely be looking at, here would be something I would look at on that, though, super important for you guys. I would be looking at, when I look at sponsored product, okay, so if you're running headline search, this is the only variable that you can really control here. Not the only one, but one of them. I would be paying attention. Okay, so if you have a headline search banner and a sponsored banner and good organic position, I may concede the headline search banner to kind of try to push the clicks down organically. Now, if it's just sponsored, no headline and organic, you got to keep both. It just shows that your product is clicking far more at the top of the page. It just could be the way the shopper shops, you know, and the way the keyword drives those clicks. But I would definitely say if you have a headline and a sponsored and an organic, and you're finding that sponsored is taking up too high of a percentage, I would start to look at the overlap on your keywords between headline and sponsored. And even if headline is coming in at a good ACoS, I sometimes will concede that ad position to drive people down the page.
All right. Here. Okay, the most relevant high volume keyword for my product has only 26,000 for broad volume searches, and there's a lot of competition. Is there any chance of winning this?
You won't know until you test. And you never know with 26,000 purchases, because I want to really clarify this. You guys remember the session, and anybody who wasn't on these like demo sessions, I would suggest you go watch them. Because some of the questions are being answered there. But one of them I thought was really key, because Amazon's such a huge ecosystem, was we did the demo for South Beach Bubbles. Awesome product, awesome branding. I would not want to be competing with that lady in any category, especially looking at her stuff. But when I was looking at that and put this together and did the analysis, and the one thing that I did notice, and I showed you guys in those keyword reports, was there wasn't this massive demand for bubbles. Like there wasn't like people were, especially big bubbles, especially giant big bubbles the size of the little kid's body. Like I'm sure that's not like a huge, it's not like, you know, bath towels. So I was like, wow, okay, there's not a ton of keyword like demand for her like big bubbles, right? Good enough to make a lot of money, but not tons of demand. Now, what was interesting though is the amount of people that shopped and bought this product for kids' parties. So it wasn't as if, because Amazon's so broad, I mean, it's not like Google, it's not a text-based engine, it's an e-com engine, and it's the biggest e-com engine. So it's not as if everything is text-based. And I was shocked to see, okay, so this is not as if somebody just comes and searches for bubbles or big bubbles. Yeah, she's killing it on that. But it's also because these people are buying like bubble machines and bubble experiences for these parties. And there was like this massive demand. So we went from like what you're saying, like 30,000 searches for the product itself to like, I don't know, like 1.5 million searches for kids' party favors, you know? And, you know, she can't target kids' party favors. That would be a disaster. But because she's running auto and the category is so broad, she's getting massive exposure. So I have this for other products too. So I think it's important to know that, yes, keyword demand is implied and it's very important. It's like high school economics, supply and demand. And keyword demand means a lot, and it means a ton out in the world of real search like Google. But inside of Amazon, it's so much more category driven, like true e-commerce. Even if that keyword itself doesn't have a ton of demand, there's so much visibility, like we talked about the 80% on these product pages in these categories that maybe there's demand in other places. So just because your keyword itself on the relevant keywords only has 26,000, that doesn't mean that as you start to push those keywords, you're not going to find a lot of buyers in those 26,000 searches, or you're going to find as things start to scale and grow that you get more sales than would be expected on a keyword with that volume. And when you start thinking about the fact that you're going to mine more keywords on the long tail, and you start to think about the fact there's just so many variables on this, and we start looking at the stats that I've been sharing with you guys, or even someone in class shared today, that you're converting 1 in every 4 clicks. You know what I mean? Like 26,000 searches is low, but you're converting 1 in every 4 clicks. You know what I mean? Like that's, you know, I mean, you don't need a lot of clicks to make some sales. So I think realistically, I wouldn't be defeated by that low search volume. I would be defeated by products that are competitive, that look identical to yours, maybe even manufactured like yours, that you do not have a differentiating qualifier in the ad. So if it's truly competitive, like difference in competition between like red ocean and blue ocean. If it's a red ocean competition, that means that like all products look the same. They're not differentiated. They actually are the core same product. I'm not differentiated and I'm going after this to try to sell it. Very, very tough thing to do. If it's a red ocean or, you know, like a red sea, I mean, a blue sea, a blue ocean strategy, well, then you're in a good spot because you kind of created your own niche within that category. A great example would be the one we did last week with the bubbles. So sure, there's a lot of bubble wands out there and there's a lot of bubble solution out there and people sell 5 gallons for dirt cheap. But this girl's gone and created a really branded, unique product that is distinctly hers with all her own branding, all her own lifestyle stuff, and her own unique design. And with that design, it's a big, huge mammoth bubble. Very, very good, right? Very good in terms of differentiation. I mean, I can go against all sorts of other bubble products because I have a better differentiated product. I'm in a blue ocean. Sure. I would call red sea when it goes to bubble solution, but I would call blue ocean when it goes to gigantic bubbles, right? So I think it's important that you remember, like if you're advertising in a red sea, it doesn't matter what you're doing. You're in a red sea. That's a very challenging place to be as a business. If you're advertising in a blue ocean, be sure that you're picking your blue ocean keywords, right? That you're picking those 26,000 that can lead you to glory, right? So pick those keywords that are very targeted, describe your unique features and benefits that you can actually leverage those to get full velocity out of them. So yeah, if it's a blue ocean, treat it like a blue ocean, get the right keywords in there to really jam. If it's a red sea, it's hard because that's a business decision where you're in a challenging market.
Okay, Smile's got kind of a long question here with some metrics. So I'll get you, if you want to get a pen and paper out there, just to make sure you get everything. Mm-hmm. All right. While I'm waiting for someone to finish writing copy for my listing, I tested with 2 of my keywords bidding above the suggested bids. If I bid $1 above the suggested bid, I don't get much traction. So I bid 3 times the suggested bids. I got a lot of impressions and some orders. However, my ACOS went through the roof at over 300%. When I lower my bids, I hear crickets. So I'm assuming that means nothing after that. Once I have my listing optimized, I want to run an aggressive campaign again, and I want to at least generate enough sales to cover my ad costs. What do you suggest I do so I don't just blow money into thin air?
Well, I mean, you're doing the right thing by testing it, but 300% shows that you have both a cost and conversion issue. And that's why you have someone writing copy for the pages. I'd be working hard on those pages, converting more clicks to sales. I'd be working triple, quadruple, 10x hard on those reviews, because reviews are the gold. Without them, nothing happens on Amazon, whether you're doing paid or organic. I'd be working extra hard on reviews. I'd be working really hard on the product listing to get your conversion up, because 300% is pretty high. From there, I'd be really questioning if you're in the browse or the shop funnel with those keywords. I would go deeper into modified search, keywords that define the features and benefits, going back to that strategy. And I think that those would be the things I would focus on. Then at the end of it all, I'd be looking at your price. And as soon as you start to get the ACOS closed, making sure that you have adequate pricing to cover those margins, right? That your margin is adequate for the cost of the clicks in your market. And right now, this is what you need to know. So you say you've bid 3x to get those spots. One, we don't know how targeted the keywords are, but I'm going to assume they're pretty targeted because you know what you're doing. If you've been on targeted keywords, but you converted at 300%, I mean, the ACOS is 300%, then we know it's a conversion issue, and we know you will pay for those conversion issues through the nose. So what would cost a converting page, CPC might cost $1.18 or $2.25 max. If that same page doesn't convert, it's going to be $5, $6, $8, because you can't buy the traffic. You can't convert the traffic. Amazon's not interested in it if you can't convert it. So you can't really get the ad game to work without raising conversions. And I would say the 2 things that impact conversions are the persuasion of your copy and the product page itself, how well it's sold, how well it's positioned, how thoughtfully you pushed those sales on the product page. Because again, ads just bring people to the page. It's the product page that sells. And then also really focusing on reviews and getting these exceptionally exciting reviews that will bring people back to the page to buy and kind of encourage them to add that to cart.
Okay, Theodora's got a question here. It says, if you have 2 parent ASINs that are rotated and sold in the same keyword, can this affect the ranking of the product since they are being rotated? And if you rotate it, how often do you do it?
When I say rotate it, if you have 2 parent ASINs that need to be targeted on the same keyword, they need to have the same performance. And then you would just set up 2 ads within each ad group. But the keywords should be 100% relevant to each product. They should not be broad, general keywords in any capacity. Broad, general keywords are useless when you're trying to start this game, especially on Amazon. I mean, really general ones. Like we talked about jeans versus women's jeans versus skinny jeans. And we all know I started with skinny jeans. When you start getting too broad, it's a tricky situation. So when you're talking about those, to me, it's very surprising that there's 2 parent ASINs that can use identical keywords when you get in the shop funnel. To me, that's an interesting equation, because I feel like how could the keywords define the features and benefits, but yet define it for two separate products? So I think if you're really targeting the keywords correctly, that's not going to be an issue. But if you are trying to get like some more general keywords, which are tricky, you would go ahead and put the two products, but then those 2 products have to sell equally, or you're better to pick one and let everything in the whole brand go on the halo effect.
Okay, and then just a follow-up question with Smile's question. Smile's wondering if he should create a new ad group later.
Well, you can test the same keywords to the new landing page, but then just set the date range to view only the new metrics. I wouldn't set something. Well, you could. I mean, I see you're talking about sales history there. I think realistically, you probably just will retest that, because you're not going to be able to have the algorithm forget about your history no matter how you do it anyway.
Okay. What do I do with all the keyword search terms from the report before I started this course? So they have a report before they started this course, and they have keyword search terms from that that have only made one order. Should I add them to shop and see how they do and then decide if I should throw them in buyer scale?
That's a great idea. You can absolutely do it this way. I don't think one order is enough with Amazon. It takes so few clicks to get an order. I just ignore everything with one order because it's just not enough data to really make sense. It's not enough data. If you want to test it in shop, just watch those keywords like a hawk, because when you open up the bids, they're either going to convert or not. And just with one order, that's not conclusive data. It's almost like testing a lot of keywords out of a keyword tool. But if you want to test them in shop, that's the absolute right way to do it. Test them in shop, move them to scale and buy. Now, if you're testing them in shop, watch your shop keywords 3x a week. As soon as they start to tip over with high CPCs, low conversion, high ACoS, zero sales, be sure you're plugging those pretty quickly, because with one order, there's nothing conclusive that shows that they're going to keep performing that way.
Okay, I've got somebody here. Ooh, this is a new one. Okay, great. I do giveaways and rebates to rank for additional keywords. How do I account for that in the dashboard?
Oh, well, yeah, this is just your sponsored products spend against total sales. So all of those situations, would be totally calculated separately. I would have to understand the metrics and what I would do with that. You know what I mean? In terms of that, it would probably be it would definitely be a totally different dashboard. We do in our advertising dashboard make notes about lightning deals and other promos. But if you want to make a note in your advertising dashboard that you ran this additional sale, that's great. So that you understand. I see you're saying it's a rebate, so your total sales are going to be unusually low because you didn't sell at full price. Yeah, with those, we don't do anything. In terms of our sponsored product dashboard, it's just designed to track total sales against sponsored products. And you'll probably just want to make notes on your bottom margin when the rebates go, what percentage it was, so that you can at least analyze that in your mind that you had a rebate running during those days.
Right. Smile's got another question here. It says, my brand keywords don't have any impressions since I added them. Why is that, do you think? My keywords are relevant based on WordTree and Helium 10, and the pricing is very competitive compared to the competitors.
Maybe you just don't have a ton of brand searches yet. You know what I mean? Because it's really those category keywords that drive the brand searches. So when you start to advertise aggressively on big category keywords, the ones in the shop cycle, the ones in the browse cycle, but shop especially, when you start to kind of push that stuff out, that's when you start to see brand searches come back in. You need the category visibility on those general searches with no brand preference to kind of drive the brand searches.
All right. David's got the next question here. He says, I ran out of my bestseller variation. Should I add the next best-selling variation to my current ad groups, or should I create new ad groups?
Definitely don't add. We talked about that last week. If you have a best-selling, your best-selling variation is jamming because of the ads, you really just let that be ineligible and it will come back up when you're back in stock. If you want to advertise the other variation, that's a tricky one because you're going to change the sales history and performance history of that already optimized campaign for no reason. So you could put the next possible unit in. If it was a very close similarity in conversion and performance, you could. But just know that you're risking the sales history of the campaign, ACoS, CPC, all those things will be changed if that secondary product does not perform as well as the one that's been winning. So normally with my products, I don't do that. Normally with my products, if something is out of inventory, which it happens very rarely, it always happens in the early days of advertising before someone's ready for that kind of total velocity win. But it only happens once and it never happens again for me normally. So when it happens, it's a bummer, but it shouldn't cause any issues with your campaigns and ad groups if you just let them go ineligible and then they'll go straight right back up when you get that product back in stock. But I would not be tinkering with the performance of that campaign if it's working well enough to sell you out a product.
Here, I'm unsure why David asked the same. David just submitted the same question again. I'm not really sure why because it says the exact same thing. Let's see here. So I am paying attention to everything you guys are submitting, guys. Every single one of them is getting added to our list.
You guys are jamming today. You guys are seriously on it.
This is awesome. Okay, so next question here from Julie. Julie says, I have a keyword that based on your metrics should be made into a single keyword group, and suddenly the ACOS went through the roof at 200%. Should I move it to a buy group or pause? I momentarily paused it out of panic.
Well, I would too if it didn't work. I mean, the question would be like, I mean, at this point, I would just go ahead and pause it in the single and then just re-enable it back in your scale group where you got the data. So wherever that keyword was that gave you an indication it should be moved, no big deal. It didn't work as a solo. It didn't work as a single. It didn't work in whatever match type you set. Not a big deal. Go back to wherever you got that original keyword in scale, most likely. If it was through my formula, you got it out of your scale group. Maybe it could have been out of shop, but wherever you found that keyword, go back, re-enable in its exact original format. Pause it as a single. So pausing it as a single in panic was a good move, but just make sure you've re-enabled it wherever you found it.
All right. Christine's got the next one here. It says, when just starting a campaign in Browse and Shop, should I lower bids or pause high ACOS even on day 1 or day 2 versus waiting a week or the 30 days?
One more time on that one.
Yep. It says, when just starting a campaign in Browse and Shop, I would lower the bids or pause high ACOS even on day 1 or day 2 versus waiting a week or 30 days. Is this correct?
I mean, you're going to go in several times a week. And if you have a keyword with ACOS like well over 50%, over 75%, over 100%, just crazy ACOS, like 2x your target ACOS, you're going to have to shut it down because it's not working and it's expensive. Same thing with, so yes, you would go in and pause those pretty regular. And then, of course, you could evaluate them again later. But definitely in the initial phase of testing keywords, the sooner you pause them, the more money you'll save.
All right. Dreamfish has a question here with just a couple little metrics in it. It's not a very long question, though. Sometimes I find search terms on the STR with 3+ orders and good ACOS. Then I put them into the scale 2+ group and they bomb, creating a high ACOS. Why does this keep happening?
One more time on it to see the metrics.
Yeah, it's not a lot of metrics. It just says, so he's got search terms from the STR that have more than 3 orders and good ACOS. As soon as he moves those terms to the scale 2+ ad group, they get a really high ACOS. Why does this keep happening?
It just must be those keywords aren't scaling for your product. It just might be something in your product and how it's being sold. But if you were going back to the example earlier, it's not a big deal. If they don't work in scale, test them, high ACOS, pause them, and then go back and re-enable them wherever they were working. It's most likely to do with the bids. It's most likely to do with bidding and ranking. It's like if you have a lower bid in another group and you test the keyword, right? You test the keyword in a group with a lower bid, and then you move it to scale with a higher bid. Scale has your highest bids. At that point, you're going to be ranking more. You're going to be getting more traffic. It's more competitive. You're going to be going neck to neck with your closest competitors. And maybe the product didn't sell at a point that it could merit that type of positioning or ranking. It could be the product. It could be the margins. It could be conversion. It could be a million things. And that's one thing that is the value of scale. And the reason we optimize several times a week to make sure we keep those keywords in order is because once you have conclusive data, 3+ orders, you move it to scale, and always some of those keywords are going to dud, and then some of them are going to win. Like we talked about in the very beginning modules, it's like an 80-20 game. So you can expect 80% of what you do to not work, and 20% does work, and then that 20% produces 80% of the results. That's just business, right? So in advertising, it's 80-20. So 80% of the keywords you test at scale may not scale, but the 20% that do will be huge home runs. So you just got to kind of keep moving through those keywords and moving them. Now, it depends on from the original ad group that you had them in, what the bid was there compared to the bid in scale. That could also be the big differentiation. Like, are you bidding a lot more in scale than you are on these test beds? And then that would be the problematic piece, is that, okay, as soon as you up the bid and you get into these higher ranking positions, the product does not compete with the competitors right there, or you're not converting at a rate that works with those bids. So I think that the main thing to do is not to, it's not a big deal. If they were really driving a lot of sales where they were, you can always re-enable in the ad groups that they were in, and then you can definitely pause them and scale if they're not working. But if they weren't driving a considerable amount of sales where they were at, then it's not worth doing anything with them except pausing them and scale. And again, it's kind of an unusual situation, but you're always going to find some of those keywords don't work.
Just messed up my sheets. Okay, here we go. We're back. Okay, how often do you recalculate and recap the bids in a buy ad group? Do you do them once a week or once a month?
No, I wouldn't do anything like that once a week. Once a week, I just simply pause keywords in the campaign manager. And then once a month, I look at my overall keyword profitability search terms, and I do all my mining and optimization there. Once a keyword has been moved into buy and the CPC has been capped, at that point, you'll most likely lose a significant amount of sales because you're capping the CPC, and it's either going to work or it's not. So normally after a keyword goes to buy, it either comes out profitable with a lower bid, or it ends up being paused because it's not driving significant orders anymore. And so either way, you can recalibrate that again, but you're sort of going into this place of a lot of maybe over complex thinking that won't drive those 20% of activities that drive 80% of sales. So I think when you're looking at this, and again, I do this professionally, it's like how I make a living, and that's how I make percentages, right? Because I get percentages of my sales. I think that if you're looking at this and you're getting super granular, and you may be making this far more complex than it ever needs to be.
All right. Okay. Next one here is, I'm trying to understand the concept of figuring out how the shopper shops. I don't really get how to do that. Isn't it all just about finding keywords that are selling well?
No. You definitely want to go back through the last, I think the session that's probably the most meaningful for how the shopper shops is going to be the session with the slippers. I think that was in, Melissa, what was that, Tuesday, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, I think you're right.
Tuesday, 2 weeks ago. The very first session of this optimization series, we went through the slippers. That is the best session you could go through on how the shopper shops.
Okay.
It's never as simple as just picking keywords out of a data tool.
Right. When putting words into shop and browse, how do we decide how much to bid on them at first? I think we've talked about that quite a few times.
Okay, one more time.
When putting words into shop and browse, how do we decide how much to bid on them at first?
You're going to bid a little bit over Amazon's suggested bid on the most, the highest suggested bid a little bit over that.
All right. Julie's so funny. Julie commented something. She said, Tuesday last week. Oh, wait, no, sorry. And then she goes, ignore me sometimes.
I know, so much happening so fast.
Never, Julie. We'd never ignore you, I promise. I'll always read them all.
We do. And then ponder.
Okay. Yeah, we read them and then we think about them for a while. Okay, so admin's got a question here. It's a little bit long. Not a lot of metrics, but a little long.
Okay.
When you lower your bid for a keyword and then you're showing on page 2 or lower, is there a probability that you will then convert better for that keyword, but with lower volume, as if someone clicks on your ad only on page 2, but the chances are higher that they haven't seen what they want yet, as they are already browsing to page 2. Is that a correct deduction?
Well, it could go one of two ways. They either haven't seen what they want, which would be pretty unusual for Amazon to not show them what they want before they get to page 2.
I'll be honest, I don't know if I've ever been on a page 2 for anything.
The Amazon algorithm is so well tooled. I mean, it is so well done. I mean, so is Google's. I mean, it's just, these algorithms are like the best algorithms in the entire world. So I think it's very unlikely that Amazon has not put them up with something that they will find that they like by page 2. But if by some chance that happens and you have a unique like differentiator and maybe that works, there's two things that can happen. The shopper either hasn't found what they want, or they're just so crazy that they click through that many listings to find what they want, which means they're going to be super looky-loo, which a looky-loo in advertising just means that they look and they look and they look and they click and they click and they click and they don't buy. So I'm going to say on Amazon, someone coming to page 2 is a looky-loo, and at least half of them. And then I'm going to say, sure, there could be some categories. Maybe they didn't find what they wanted. Again, it's something that I wouldn't know enough to know, but I do know that if you get too low on Amazon, you definitely don't get the kind of conversions you get above the fold or on the first page of search.
Okay, and then Dreamfish wanted to clarify here. So he didn't get a clear answer to the question. So the question was, how often do you recalculate and recap the bids in a buy ad group? You do once a week or once a month. Says I didn't get a clear answer to the question. Were you saying never or were you saying once a month?
If I were to do it, it's once a month. If I were to do it, which would mean, okay, first of all, I wouldn't recalibrate all my bids and buy because most of them aren't going to need recalibrating, right? And if you have keywords that need recalibrating, as you put it, then you would just lower the bids on those keywords, right? Continue to lower the bids. So if you were to do that, you would do it once a month, but be sure that you're looking at the sales payoff. And you definitely, as you analyze the keywords in your buy group, make sure that they're still driving enough sales to merit the percentage of time you're going to invest in them. So you really want to take your high level activities that drive sales, that put that 20% into the bank. And then the rest of it, you just have to just kind of go through it and just kind of button stuff up. So what I mean with that is if you're down to one order on a keyword, it's better to pause it if you've already lowered the bid and it's still not working. Your first effort is to lower the bid. You can continue to push down that bid a few more times if you want to, but if it's just one sale or it's just not a big win, you don't need to worry about it. So I certainly wouldn't be recalibrating all the bids and buy, maybe just the ones that actually need lowering.
I think he's saying recap, like capping the bid.
Well, you would just lower them. If they were coming in, if you're looking in your buy group, again, when we're optimizing, we spend 80% of our time in scale and competitors and, shop. We spend a lot of our time on these kind of keyword opportunities that are going to really be the big winners. Once a keyword has moved to buy, we don't spend a ton of time optimizing brand keywords because we add new stuff to brand, but brand's always going to be brand. It performs amazing. But we don't spend a ton of time in buy because those keywords have already proven to us they won't scale. And they're literally there just to maintain sales history at the lowest possible click. So you would definitely do it once a month, and you would only adjust the keywords that are still driving orders that need to be lowered.
Okay, and then just to follow up with that. So if you see a keyword in the buy ad group with a low ACOS around 11%, you don't ever increase that bid?
No, I mean, at that point, you've moved it into buy because it doesn't work in scale. So you could do that. I mean, if you have the abundance of time to manage every keyword in your account and do that, you should. You should. How many sales at that percent though, at that ACOS? You know what I mean? Like once you start to lower the bids and you put it in buy, you're not getting a ton of sales in buy. Like you want to be focused in your scale ad groups. You want to be focused where your singles. If you want to be focused on tweaking the stuff that drives the 80% of sales. If you want to granularly manage every ACOS at every keyword and buy, you could. You would just have to have an exceptional amount of time to do that. And you may not get a lot out of it at the end of the day because you're moving into these kind of keywords that have already proven that they don't really scale for you at higher bids. So, if you want to keep tinkering with those, you can, but I would actually spend more time tinkering with the stuff that's already working up in scale.
Okay, Contact's got a question here. It says, if one of my products has more sessions, a higher session percentage, but a lower conversion, versus a different product that has a lower session percentage, but a higher conversion, which one should I focus on first?
I would focus on the one that has the most sales first and foremost, and then I would look at the ones with the conversions next, and then I would probably look at session percentage. I would go 1, 2, 3. It depends on what products I'm analyzing though. Some products don't have that clear kind of differentiator between the three metrics, but I would say that sales is your number one indicator, like what's already selling for you. And that should kind of align a bit with sessions. But then, conversion rate is really going to help you, but just make sure that when you look at that conversion rate, you've had enough clicks to the listing to actually do the work.
All right, let's see here. Okay. Diana's got the next question. And Diana says, my STR is finally 30 days old. Yay, Diana. She got to 30 days. But I feel very frustrated because it didn't bring in any new search terms at a good ACOS for 3+ orders. For 2 orders, it only brought in 3 new search terms with a good ACOS. Is this what I should be expecting, or what am I doing wrong?
Well, it could just be the keywords don't have a ton of variation, or maybe one more time on the numbers.
Okay, the numbers are, it didn't bring in any new search terms with a good ACoS for 3+ orders. But for 2 orders, it only brought in 3 new search terms with a good ACoS. So nothing above 3 orders. And with 2 orders, there was only 3 new search terms.
I mean, if you want to test the ones at 2, you can. They're only 3 keywords. And then just make sure you watch them closely because it could tip either direction. And then I would definitely say start testing other keywords to see if you can get more variations out of them. Maybe your initial keywords didn't get the kind of variations that most search does, but you definitely want to keep testing keywords till you find those keywords that will drive a lot of good search term variations.
Okay, Contact's got another question here. It says, in regards to the product that's identical, I'm confused because the other competing products are also identical in look and apparently are selling well. I'm converting at about 20%. Does that look like there's going to be hope? I just want to know if I should give up on the product or keep going.
Yeah, I can't advise there. I don't have any advice on products and markets in that sense. You know, like that'll go back to how you selected this product, why you selected this product. You know, what is your manufacturing advantage? What is your cost advantage? What does the market look like? Who are other people selling this? Does anybody have a manufacturing or cost advantage? Those are all kind of business decisions that get even the best of us, not just you. But all of us have to make those decisions, me included. You know, like where do we put our money in for the next year? What's the best use of our time? What's the best use of our resources? You know, it's tricky. So from a business standpoint, I can't help you there because it would be outside of my wheelhouse to advise on that. But again, if the products are selling on Amazon, yours could too. Just know that it could be challenging to break in with advertising if you've got these kind of embedded competitors with an identical product.
Right. How often should you adjust bids for browse and shop keywords in the campaign manager?
You want to, on your browse and shop, you just need to start, you know, kind of adjusting those to test them until they get impressions and they start to get some rank. So manually check the most important keywords if they're ranking, start to kind of push up the bids so you see impressions, clicks, and orders. You just want to be able to kickstart those so you can start getting data on the performance of those keywords. And you can be as aggressive as you want to be on your bidding. Some people are like bidding for position 1, everything they do. You know, other places you want to just be moderate enough to where you start seeing impressions and clicks, and that's going to give you the data to know which of those keywords can be moved around to be more aggressive.
Okay, let's see here. Dreamfish had a clarifying question. So are you saying that you never recalculate or recap bids in the buy group?
No, we answered that.
We did. Okay, then I just must have added it twice. Sometimes my copy.
But I would say, based on Dreamfish's question there, recalculating bids in the buy group, I would definitely, just to expound on that, when you start to do stuff in the campaign manager, and this is important for all of us, because when you're doing this stuff, it is, you know, it's a business. And we all know that the top, you know, businesses in America are built on simplifying everything they do. The more complex it is, the harder it is to make it work. So when it comes to simplifying this, try to ask yourself what the keyword has 80 or 90 or 800 orders. Man, that keyword needs all your attention. Everything else, you know, ask yourself what the payoff is for that complexity. To make this process more complex than it needs to be, where's your payoff? And try to kind of focus on the things that have big payoffs and big wins. And that is just, you know, from the top down, from the best businessmen in the world. It helps so much in advertising too, to kind of focus in on, you know, where's the payoff? So how is it serving you to make the task more complex? How is it serving you to double analyze the data? How is it serving you to do those things? And at the end of the day, it could not serve you to make you money, to grow your brand, to increase your visibility. Then don't do it. You know what I mean? Just try to focus on the things that, you know, don't let it spend your money, you know, don't let it waste your money. That's for sure with advertising, no wasted money. But try to make money, try to grab visibility, try to take those big keywords that really matter, try to take the variations out of your search term that really drive relevant sales and sales history, and try to focus on these things that are really going to push, kind of push your business forward, and try to, it's tricky because there's so much data in advertising you can spend forever, but try to eliminate the complexity as much as you can for your own sanity, so that you can always think, what's the payoff? If I go in and do this in the campaign manager, can I do this across all keywords? Can I do this across all campaigns? Can I do this across all products? And if the answer is no, it's not a big deal. Plug the holes, kill the keywords that are wasting money, and focus on those 20% that are going to drive your business through the roof.
Okay. Continuation of a previous question from Contact. It says, I know that my product is much better quality than the others that seem identical. How do I get shoppers to know that?
Sales page, sales copy, and keywords that list those benefits.
All right.
Make sure those benefits are tangible, and make sure that here's another good one with that. If you're looking at a competitive product, and make sure the consumer knows it's better, right? Like if you see your product is better, that's fantastic. But if your consumer or your shopper isn't finding a problem with the product they're buying, which they will talk about it in the reviews if they do, if those reviews reflect these problems, then you need to position your product against those reviews, right? So if you go to these pages with a lower quality, the reviews list the problems on the page. People are mad, people are unhappy, people are posting negative stuff. At that point, you know that the shopper recognizes the quality deficit. Like the shopper actually understands this is not the quality they hoped for when they bought it. Now, that is where you can capitalize on that and make sure that your product page lists in clear terms that no one could misunderstand, and within seconds of reading it, how this product is a better quality, why it's a better quality, and how it differentiates in terms of what they're buying for, what their payoff is. Like, why do they buy this product, right? So I think that the main thing to focus on there is just where are those differentiating points, and does the shopper recognize them? And then the other place that you could be at is if the reviews aren't bad, then the shopper doesn't have a quality issue. You know what I mean? The shopper isn't the quality could be better with yours, but they don't have a problematic issue with what they're buying right now. So you kind of want to look to make sure that one, the shopper identifies this quality, and what does the shopper identify as poor quality based on their feedback and the reviews, and then really make sure that you list your quality as higher with really tangible reasons very early in the product pitch.
Okay, Info's got the next question here. It says, let's say I'm launching a new product. Should I ever worry about second page competitors in my competitive analysis?
No.
Okay.
I would be looking at your competitors on page one organically, competitors in the BSR ranked at the bestseller rank, competitors within your category on product pages, and just throughout the whole funnel and on your most important keywords.
And last question we've got here, and we can wrap up. It says, if I can't beat the top seller and I want to get into second position, should I settle for second position of top of search?
Yeah. I mean, you could settle for second position top of search if it's working at your target ACOS and it's pushing, one more time, is there any metrics there? Like what's happening if they won?
Nope. Just it just says if I can't beat the top seller and I want to get to the second position, should I just settle for the second position of top of search?
Oh yeah, of course. That's not settling. I mean, going to the top second position is a killer position, and you'll build a big brand right there. I mean, the number one position is stronger, but at the same time, the number 2 and 3 positions also build big brands on those search terms. So, and trust me, I know because they're my competitors. Without question, you can build a killer brand off of position 2 or 3. If you could take one, you should push until you see if you can. If for some reason it starts to push your costs into Nuttyville, then you got to, retreat a little bit.
All right. That's all the questions we got.
Okay, you guys, that was an awesome session. And thank you guys so much for asking all those good questions. And I think that, Melissa, did anything else come in right as we were wrapping there?
All it said is, let's see here. Liz just had a comment. It said, I would suggest to that question, if a product is better quality, to look at other competitors' reviews, whether they're good or bad.
Okay, and what was Hot's? Did I answer?
Oh, Hotsfield. I didn't even see that one.
Hotsfield's question. Sorry about that one.
Yeah. This thing refreshes every 10 seconds. So if 10 of you send me something at the same time, all 10 questions come through at the same time.
Oh my gosh, you guys are so awesome. Yeah. I love this class. It's like I'm so used to just hanging with you guys all week, every week. It's like my life now. I'm looking at Smile and Lure VIP and just Carolina, Dreamfish, who just wants to just complicate it. And I'm like, Dreamfish, simplify for your own well-being. Simplify, I promise. You can make millions of dollars on simple strategy. Complexity is hard for everyone. So Dreamfish, I know you're a complex thinker and I really appreciate it. But I have to tell you, after 15 years of scaling million and billion dollar accounts, complexity is actually It's like an Achilles heel. Too much complexity in your life makes it challenging. So sometimes when you bring me these things, I'm like, oh, it's too complex. It's too complex. You're making it too hard for everyone. But I appreciate your questions and thanks for bringing them.
Okay, well, we got a couple more that just came in. So usually when I say last question, we'll get a couple more. But okay, so Hatfield question is, I have one keyword in broad that yields most of my sales, but at a bad ACoS. How do I further mine out of the search terms that will help me find those golden keywords?
You're going to need to go through like some of the previous sessions that I've done here in the optimization module, which I'm so glad I did. I'm so glad that I did, go through those, I'm so glad I'm going through real life campaigns with you guys because I think it's answering so many of these questions. If you just have one single keyword that's broad, that can't be the only keyword that defines your product. It's just not humanly possible. So we know there's more keywords out there, and I would go back through your keyword research modules and back through last week's class and this week's class and start looking at, both Tuesday classes and look at how I did that keyword research, because both of those examples had started too broad. The first week was started incredibly targeted, and we had some kind of mix-ups in terms of like what the keywords actually meant. This week on Tuesday, what I covered in the cosmetic line, too many broad keywords, not detailed enough. They were terribly broad, and unfortunately, broad keywords bring bad results. You got to get into that mid-tail. You got to modify the search. You got to get focused on features and benefits. This is Amazon.com. You have nasty competitors with big budgets. You cannot come after them in the short tail before you take the mid tail. Even on my most competitive accounts where I'm in the top 3 before I win the battle, I've always got to start in the mid tail. So start in the mid tail and get those really feature and benefit driven keywords. And I would go review those modules, and I'd go back to the keyword research guide, and I would get some more keywords. Because if you've got one broad keyword and it's not working for you, there's not just one keyword that defines your product.
Okay, and then Peggy's question here says, I'm in a subcategory that's not relevant. Which competitors do I use in my analysis? Do I go to other subcategories for that?
I'm in a subcategory that is not relevant. Oh, yes. You got to go to categories that are relevant. Because once again, it's not like you're going to be categorically, of course, you're going to categorically not be able to take this badge, but you could take the badge because it's random, but categorically doesn't matter. You need to go find those relevant competitors wherever they are based on your main keywords. If you remember like the competitive analysis series, you know what I mean? Like in the competitive analysis series, what we were looking at there was we talked about how we would go ahead and do the main seed keyword, right? We did use the BSR as one example, but we started on like skinny jeans, not even women's jeans, skinny jeans. I started looking at all the competitors that are ranked organically on skinny jeans on the first page of Amazon. So take your primary seed keyword that truly identifies your product with a modifier. Again, I'm not talking women's jeans. I'm talking they're skinny. They're not boot cut. They're not they're not low waisted. They're not, they're not any of those things. They are without question a skinny jean. So you need to find that modified search that defines your product. You need to get that modified search in there and run that through Amazon Organic and take that through your Helium 10 tool, the magnet tool, and that your browser tool, right? To determine which of those competitors are going to be most relevant to your product. Because again, you're pulling their keywords and you're going to be targeting their pages, and it doesn't matter where they are in your irrelevant BSR category. You need to go where it's relevant.
Okay, one more here from Rob. It says, is there any way to get campaigns to show stats for the same day faster than waiting 8 to 12 hours for data? I'm just used to using AdWords and other platforms that show it a lot more quickly.
Oh yeah, that was so hard to adjust to, Rob. I feel your pain. It's just, that's how it is. You'll just adjust to it. And remember that Amazon has a 7-day attribution window. So even if you think you've got it right, which it's not right, let me tell you, in the campaign manager right away, even if you think you got the data right, you've still got this like 7-day attribution window. And then when you get into their like bigger kind of media buys, you're at like a 14-day attribution window, which means they're attributing sales for 14 days later. People, it's really complex. So I think, going on that window is the best you're going to get. I'm sure they're going to update their platforms. They're already making so many improvements this year, especially. I'm sure you're going to be able to get better data, but with that 7-day attribution window for sales, I'm probably not ever going to see an advantage to pulling that data tight. But there is something, Rob, you could do with total sales. I do know that some of my clients use a tool called Hello Profit. And I know with Hello Profit, you can actually get product sales right up to the minute, very like real time, because I get a lot of total sales data when I'm trying to scale something from clients, and they use Hello Profit. So I know you can get your total sales, real sales data from a tool called Hello Profit, but it will do nothing to help your ad data. Advertising data is just stuck in, going the way of the dinosaur, right? You got to go 5 days back.
All right. And then Julie just wants to know when replays from the last 2 weeks are going to be up.
Oh, geez, they should already be up. Let me ask. Let me go ahead and ask Andy. Andy does all that stuff for me. Okay. Yeah, great. I'll go ahead and check with Andy.
Yeah, that's all the questions I got.
Okay, you guys rock. It was a super awesome Thursday, and we're headed into the weekend, and it is just so much fun to catch up with you guys. And oh man, Rob, if you ever find a way to pixel Amazon, you better email me directly, and you better do it fast, because I would love to pixel the pages, because then I could drive so much outside traffic. And Lord VIP, thank you guys. Smile, everybody. Julie, Dreamfish, thank you guys. Liz, thank you so much for coming to class, for coming and being so steady with your campaigns. Robert's working so hard, everybody. And I am excited to see you guys. And we will see you guys next Tuesday. Until next time.